Our father would start ignoring my needs in favor of Allie's, and if I needed something, I would have to take care of it myself. Honestly, I think the reason he liked my sister so much more than me is because Allie looks so much like him. I think that gives him a sense of pride and connection with her. And while there were never any pictures of our mother around the house, I was always certain that I resembled her fairly well. My name is Daniel, and I'm 20 years old. I'm in a good place now, but when I was growing up, my father always made me feel like I was never good enough. He always made me feel like I was second best to my younger sister, Allie. In his eyes, Allie could do no wrong, and everything that she did was perfect. Our mother wasn't in the picture for much of our lives. After Allie was born, our father moved us to a new town, and it's been the three of us ever since. I never knew why our mother wasn't around until recently. Growing up, my father never liked to talk about her. He would get mad if either one of us brought it up, but he would never punish my sister for asking about her. If I ever brought up the subject, he would scream and shout at me about being ungrateful for what he's done for us. As a child, I never really thought much about it until we both started to get older. Our father would start ignoring my needs in favor of Allie's, and if I needed something, I would have to take care of it myself. Honestly, I think the reason he liked my sister so much more than me is because Allie looks so much like him. I think that gives him a sense of pride and connection with her. And while there were never any pictures of our mother around the house, I was always certain that I resembled her fairly well. Given how our father never liked to mention our mom, I guessed that my existence was just a bitter reminder of his ex that he hated with a passion. I used to think that if I was just a good student and kept my grades up, soon enough our father would slowly start to like me as much as he liked Allie. While she was making friends and goofing off after school, I kept my focus on my studies and did the best I could in all my classes. I got perfect grades all throughout school, and I was always proud of myself for that. But our father never seemed to care. Even though we were older, he still only cared about Allie. He supported her going out whenever she wanted, and sometimes would even give her money to buy what she wanted while she was with her friends. He never even so much as glanced at my grades or cared about what I was doing in school.
Dad?
Yes, my dear?
My friends and I wanted to go out again this weekend, but I'm going to need some money if we go shopping.
Of course. Take what I have in my wallet.
Thank you, Dad.
Have fun with your friends. Dad, what is it now? I got a perfect grade on all my final exams, and my dream colleges are showing interest in me. So what? Why are you bothering me with this? And I thought you'd be proud of me. Why should I be proud of you? You've always been a disappointment. But I'm a great student, and I'm a responsible son. You'll never be as important as Allie. I was beyond disappointed and hurt to hear that. I just wanted to be as important to our father as Allie was, but it was becoming clearer that that would never be possible. Allie never treated me like our father did. Sometimes when she would go out, she would invite me along, and occasionally brag about my grades to her friends. Unlike our father, Allie made an effort to be kind to me and make me feel like I was cared about. But she also had her own life and her own friends, so no matter how well she treated me, it wouldn't do much to erase how much disdain our father had for me. It was at its worst during high school. Allie started dating the richest boy in the school, and our father was excited to learn of the relationship. He kept badgering her about his family and about all the money they have. Meanwhile, I was busy trying to apply to colleges and get into school somewhere else. I thought getting my education and leaving my father behind would do me a lot of good. But when I looked at my college fund, I found that it had been drained of every dollar I'd put into it. I couldn't understand what had happened. I'd been saving up for school for years. I counted all the money I added. There was no possible way I didn't have any money to pay for college. At least, that was what I thought until I spoke to Allie. This is awful. My college fund is completely empty.
What? That can't be possible.
That's what I thought too, but just look for yourself.
How did Dad let this happen? He's got so much money saved up. You should have something here.
What money? Dad doesn't have all that much.
Really? He always has enough for me, and he keeps getting money from my boyfriend's family. There should be plenty for you.
Dad never has enough money for anything I do.
That's so weird.
It wasn't until I confronted our father about it that I learned the truth. He'd taken everything out of my college fund to pay for Allie's outings with her friends. I couldn't help the immense amount of anger I felt when I heard that. Allie was perfect to him, and he gave her everything she ever wanted. And it turns out she had also used all of my college money for her friends. Oddly enough, he went on to say that the main reason that he had taken my money was that he was angry that I was making plans to go off to school, and that he didn't want me to, as it could look like I was doing better than Allie. He wanted to prop her up so much that he figured the best way to do it was to hold me back and ruin me, rather than trying to motivate her to do better. It was so illogical. He hated me so much and loved Allie so much that he just wasn't seeing reason. I knew I couldn't really be mad at my sister. She didn't know, and she always treated me well. But it was unfair to me, and it was how our father had been treating me my entire life. I got sick of it, and I knew I had to get out of the house as quickly as possible. Just days after graduation, I found a nearby apartment to live in. It was small and not great, but I didn't have a lot of money at the time, and I needed to get out of the house quickly, and that was the only place available. Besides, once I got a job and saved up more money, I could move into a better place. I told Allie where I was, but otherwise stopped talking to our father altogether. The strange thing about that is, cutting him out kind of hurt. He's never treated me with respect or given me any kind of affection or recognition, but at the same time, he's the only parent I've ever known. He's the one who kept a roof over my head and kept me in school for so long. That made it difficult to feel good about leaving him and Allie behind, even if he never cared about me. Regardless, after I got my own apartment, I worked on getting a job as quickly as possible. It was as a waiter at a restaurant, and I had to work all day long, but it paid me every week, and I was able to afford rent every month. It would have to do until I could get another higher-paying job. After several weeks of searching for another job, I found one that I thought would be a perfect match. It was an entry-level job at a tech company that had just moved into town that month. I wasn't expecting to hear back so soon, but just a few days after I applied, they called me back for an interview, and it went well. I got the job, and I was able to quit working at the restaurant I was working at before. The new job also gave me more free time, which I would use to search for my mother. After leaving my father behind, I'd become increasingly curious about finding out who my mom was and why they had separated when Allie and I were children. I didn't have any memories of her, and now that I didn't have a parental figure in my life, I wanted to see who she was and what she was like. My old job kept me at work for long hours that I'd hardly have any time at all once I got back. One day, to my surprise, my boss called me into her office and sat me down. I was nervous. I knew I hadn't done anything wrong.
I understand you've been using company time for a personal project of yours.
Just this once. And only for a few minutes. I promise it won't happen again.
Would you mind explaining what you were doing on company time?
I was looking for my mother. My parents divorced when I was young, and I don't remember what she was like. I just wanted to know, and it got the better of me today. I apologize. As it turned out, I didn't have to apologize for what I'd been doing. My boss revealed that she was my birth mother, and that she'd been looking for me and Allie for years now. She asked me what it had been like to be raised by my father, and she listened when I explained what I'd gone through. After I was done, she became enraged and promised to get Allie out of that house too. It was fairly easy when she filed for custody, and we found out that the reason our father had used my college fund and the money from the family of Allie's boyfriend was because of all the gambling debt he got himself into while Allie and I were growing up. Allie's boyfriend was pretty upset to hear about that, and he ended up breaking up with her because of it. She was upset about that, but she was mostly angry at our father for what he'd been doing. The judge awarded our mother custody over Allie, and we both moved in with her. Turns out this is the 5th company she started, and she does very well for herself. Allie and I can't really complain about how our lives turned out. As for our father, once he didn't have access to money, the people that he owed money to came after him and beat him up pretty badly. They even stole his car and drove it into a lake to send him a message. In the end, he was forced to flee town, or else possibly be killed by them. Since then, he has been calling Allie and me and begging us for money so that he can pay off his debts and get back on his feet, but we've both sworn off ever helping him. The last time that he called, He told us that he was living on the streets and was begging people for money just so he could eat.